Hi everyone, this is Lynn and today I want to share some crafty inspiration using one of the newly released products this week by Crafty Meraki. Today I'm using Valentine, which is this adorable stamp set, and I'm going to color these 4 little images completely with my Copic markers. And then for the background I am using the view from my window Slimline die, an amazing newly released Slimline die which is truly gorgeous. I think one of the basics that we sort of should have all in our craft room. But first, the coloring of these images. I have stamped them out using my Gina K Designs Amalgam ink onto Neenah. This is the 110 pounds, but that's just what I have on hand. So if you have the 80 or you have another paper, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to show you all combinations of the colors one time. Throughout this card I'm going to use the same skin tones, the same pinks, the same greens, blues, oranges, but also 2 hair combos that are just really lovely. But I will only show it once, just to avoid this video getting really long. And I think you will already figure out how I did it after one time. If you want to see the exact combos that I'm using today, I will link to my blog post so that you can easily retrieve all the combinations that I'm using. I listed them there for each color, for each hair color and such. So these images are from the Valentine stamp set, and something that I really like about these little people is that you can actually add a color to their eyes. I just adore that. Also the guys, you can give their eyebrows the color that you want. Of course, I'm using the darkest color of the hair tone that I'm using for that image, but you can give it whatever color you want. So truly the tiny details are all up for choice. For the hair, it's something that keeps coming back. It's, in my opinion, not the easiest thing to color in, definitely with Copic markers. So far what works for me is trying to flick and coming back in with other colors, and actually it shouldn't all be covered with Copic markers. You can leave white areas that would then be some sort of a highlight. It's all a possibility. Just whatever you feel like, you can do that. And here I have a combination for a blonde hair type. Just really simple, doing some flicking. I'm not an expert on hair. There are definitely a lot of people who can teach you or learn you how to do hair gorgeously, but this is what works for me. And this way we all have to find out what works and what isn't working, of course. And then after the hair there is just skin tone, which is one of my most used combinations for skin tones personally. It's not a pinkish, it's not a brownish, it's somewhere in between, and I like it. So I'm gonna show it here with a little guy, and I'm using the E33 and E53, but also E51. So I prefer for the size of these images to have 3 colors if I have them in my Copic marker collection, just because it's quite large, so you can have a bigger impact if you have really light tone and then a darker, and then you just need one in between. And that's how I did the skin. So after everything was colored in, I used some scissors and I fussy cut these images out. And then I could start on the background. So as I said in the beginning, for the background I'm using the view from my window Slimline die, and I have decided that I was going to keep the windows inside of this Slimline card to do some ink blending. So I have taken some stencils, a Grassy stencil and then a cloudy stencil. These are both from Fawn, but lots of brands have stencils, so whatever you have at home, just use that. But I wanted to create some sort of a scene, so I'm using some really vibrant distress inks to do the ink blending. This paper is Strathmore Bristol Smooth because I wanted to do some ink splatters with the color of my blending. So with a more diluted version of splatters, I prefer using Strathmore. This paper can handle water much better than, for example, Neenah. So I've ink blended the grass, quite joyful greens, because my images also have really vibrant colors. And then for the sky, I'm using a combination of cracked pistachio and peacock feathers, also really bright and joyful. And with this cloudy stencil, I'm just adding some clouds, twisting the stencil around so that I have different shapes. And this way, this whole panel will be one scene. Although you have 3 windows, you can easily make a scene for each window, however you want to use it, of course, but this is also a possibility. So I decided to go over the clouds on the top with the peacock feathers to darken it a bit more, and this way I have also some sort of a gradient in between my clouds. And next up, for the splatters, I just added some peacock feathers to an acrylic block, added some water, and then I could just splatter it all around. I kept the stencil in place on the grass so that I could still cover it. I don't want to have blue splatters on the grass. And I'm not trying to go overboard with splatters, I just want there to be some to make it a bit more playful, as the images are also really cute and playful. And then all the elements are ready. I must admit I forgot the sentiment until really late, so if you want to avoid that, then this would be the perfect moment to stamp out your sentiment, lay down the pieces where you want them to go, and then you can decide where the sentiments can go as well. I forgot to, so I started gluing everything down. So first of all, I'm going to add this panel to my card base temporarily to do some inlaying from the windows. One of my window will not be inlaid because I want it to have the same height. I want to sort of play with different dimensions. So I'm temporarily adding this frame, and then I will do the 2 upper windows just directly on my card base using some liquid glue for that, and then I can inlay it like this. And then the bottom one, I want to have it at the same height as the frame, so I'm just keeping that there. And then I decided that I wanted to do a shaker for this card. Not completely, I'm not doing a shaker on each window, but I am going to make a tiny shaker on this upper one. So I just added a piece of acetate, and now I will use some Scotch 3M foam tape. The sequins that I'm going to use today are quite flat, so I'm only using 1 layer of this foam tape. Really important when you're making a shaker is that, of course, your window or your shaker part is completely closed, otherwise you will lose some of your shaker material, and that is not what you want. So I am making sure that there are no gaps in between my different pieces of foam tape. And once that's there, I can just completely fill the back with foam tape. I added my shaker material onto my card base, and I'm just pressing it really well down, making sure that everything is adhered, and then I can shake around. So this was the moment where I realized that I didn't have any sentiments. Now, with the adhesive underneath, you can have some trouble with stamping your sentiment out. There was also something that I experienced. I fixed it with some colored cardstock. But ideally, my sentiments were all straight onto my ink blended pieces. For the bottom one, it worked out fine. The upper one, I think that my adhesive wasn't completely filled on the back, so they didn't want to stamp. So I thought I could fix it by adding a bit of dimension underneath. So I just folded a piece of paper thicker and put it underneath, but it wasn't a wonderful solution. Sometimes it really is a solution. But this time my sentiment just got ruined completely. It did stamp out, so there was no issue with the stamp itself. It was just with the foam that wasn't, or was just there on that spot. So yeah, not working. But I wanted to keep it in this video to let you see that you can some sort of fix it, or try to fix it with adding a bit more dimension underneath it. So I just folded a piece of paper, place it back, but then it got stamped out really thick, so that didn't work. Sometimes it does, but not this case. So then I just took a piece of sea glass. This cardstock works with my ink blended sky, and I trimmed it to a sentiment strip, adding some foam squares underneath it. So now I can lift up my sentiment. That's also nice, and I'm just covering the filled sentiment like this. Only you will know. The recipient probably won't. And then I'm going to add my images. This girl is added with a bit of the Scotch 3M foam tape, because that's also the height of the frame. So this way there won't be any bulk, because there is a different height. The boy, because of the acetate, I'm completely covering with thin foam squares, because it can fit on there flat. And then the little girl and boy that are in the grass, the girl will be in front with a little bit of thin foam squares, and then the boy is watching her, and he will be just straight on the card with some liquid glue. So with the window above being the shaker, I think it's a really cute tiny detail to this card. I didn't add a lot of shaker material because it should be some sort of a subtle one for me. But if you want and you have some thicker shaker materials, double up your foam and then it will work perfectly fine. You can also add lots and lots of more sequins, but that's all up to you, whatever you prefer. And now all the images are adhered. I'm just going to add a few hearts. Because I used the pink on the heart balloons, I'm also using my pink hearts here. These are the Heart Sprinkle Mix Sweet-N-Tart by Trinity stamp. And I just scattered them and added them with liquid glue. If you saw any of my previous videos, then you know that after these hearts I will add some glossy accents to the balloons, and then I will also take some stickles to add some shimmer to the dresses of these girls, because there is a border that you can decorate, and I just always use stickles on that. After adding these final additions, I will call this card finished. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always leave them down below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. As I said in the beginning, we are celebrating the Merakihugs at Crafty Meraki, which means that there are a lot of new items, like this amazing view from my window Slimline die and Valentine. I will link to these products in the description box. That's easy for you to retrieve them on the site. Definitely check it out. If you want more inspiration on how you can use these, as well as all the other products that are released, definitely check out on social media. On Instagram you will find all the crafty inspirations from the design team using the hashtag Merakihugs. So I hope you check it out, and I will be back soon with some new inspiration. Have a wonderful day left. Bye!